Go on, get the guitar. Explain what he's doing.
I went home to get it.
You went home to get it, yeah.
It's like
any old excuse.
Okay, everybody, we're back for the final part of our U2 countdown. So if you like what you listen to, like and subscribe, write comments, tell us how bad we are at ranking albums. Okay, Shane, do you want to say where we are?
So as our number 4 album, our fourth favourite album is War, which is U2's third studio album, produced by Steve Lillywhite. I think it's the final album of theirs that was solely produced by Steve Lillywhite, although perhaps he did get assistance from somebody, I don't know. I'm not the U2 historian.
He's in and out he's in and out since then, I think. But
he has been. Yeah, you can see he's been in and out. But after that, it was Unforgettable Fire, and that's when Eno came into the equation. And I think it's kind of the third. It's like if you think of the first 3 albums as a sort of a trio, or what's the phrase you'd use there, as a trilogy. It's obviously the strongest of those. A trilogy of post-punk. It's the strongest by a good bit, in my opinion, of those post-punk albums, and you can tell that throughout the track list of the album that the rhythm section has really improved. The drumming, the bass playing, the Adam Clayton and Larry Mullen are much more in control of the rhythm section here, and there's just more songs on this album that are memorable. Like there's some really memorable songs, such as Sunday Bloody Sunday, which is the opener. It's a very iconic U2 song. New Year's Day is a great little bassline hook there, one of Adam Clayton's first really memorable bassline hooks, and then there's a lot of really good songs. Two Hearts Beat as One is obviously, I think, was a single as well.
Was a single as well, yeah.
Yeah. There's a few songs that I really like, called Like a Song and Drowning Man. Drowning Man in particular. It just like the first, what we would give Boy and October credit for is that they are full of energy, and and this one is no different. It's actually, if anything, it's a little bit too. It's just it's too much of an assault on the senses that at times towards the end it does get a little bit overbearing, but there's still a lot of great tracks here. Drowning Man to me is one of the most underrated U2 songs. Hold on, down down. I love the guitar. That like one thing. This is the thing about Edge that we were talking about in our first video, where I was trying to pinpoint what is it that like Edge is kind of like the star of the show in a way. But it's also sometimes for me he can be what turns me off U2 in the end. But in this album, I think he really is the star of the show, and I think it's what's great about him is that he's just got great feel or timing for knowing when to just hit a chord. Like, if that makes sense. Just to smash a chord. It's like there's like that moment where Bono says, "Hold on, down down," like and it crashes and it assaults your ear in a good way. And I like that song. I like any songs that kind of lock themselves into a groove, and I think that with that song, you're just kind of locked into a groove. Doom 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 dum 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 dum, and it's just really atmospheric, but also it just keeps driving forward. And Edge is doing his thing. Just every now, he just finds ways to I suppose, embellish the sound and to drive the song forward, or to keep you hooked, because you never know what he's going to do next in a lot of these songs. And then there's he's got a good sense for rock and roll rhythm as well. Just kind of a funky rock and roll rhythm. And you can see that in Two Hearts Beat as One. Diddle little dude, diddle little dude, diddle little dude, diddle little dude. Like very, I think in some ways musically Sunday Bloody Sunday is a little bit overrated, but it's still a good tune. But a lot of good stuff here. There's a Red Light is another favourite of mine. A really cool. There's trumpet in this song, and it just kind of just goes. It gets a bit chaotic, and I like music that gets a bit chaotic. I'm into chaotic music if it's good. Yeah. And I think this is an example of U2.
It reminds me, like that Red Light, reminds me a bit of the Waterboys. I know, like, they got Steve Wickham from the Waterboys in to do the fiddle on Sunday Bloody Sunday, the violin part, and that trumpet part reminds me of, like, if you think about earlier Waterboys, the sort of Hold the Moon era Waterboys, they had a bit of trumpet. It feels like that sort of.
But did the Hold the Moon come after War, or I thought Hold the Moon was more late 80s, I could be wrong.
It was late 80s, nearly 90. No, Hold the Moon
90s.
was early Waterboys. So like Waterboys, earlier 80s, they didn't really have that with Steve Wickham. I don't think he was on board at that stage. They had it was more of a sort of rocky feel, trumpety feel. I don't know, was it before or after this? But Fisherman's Blues was later. And it could have been 1990 even, Fisherman's Blues. I don't know when that came out. That was the Steve Wickham sort of Waterboys trad type sound. But anyway, that's just what it reminded me of. I don't know if it's similar or not. There might be other sounds going around then at that time.
We'll touch. Of course, I'll do my usual thing where I'll touch on a few lyrics, lyrical content later on. But you've heard my view. Usually, I don't go first in these things when we're analysing U2 albums. So, what about your take on this album?
My take. So this is number 6, I think, on my list. I'll just bring back up my list. Where was it? So this is number 6. So it's behind Pop, An Unforgettable Fire, which is perhaps something that I should explain. So Pop, I really like Pop. It's it's an album that I listened to a lot growing up. So there's a bit of nostalgia there. I do think there's a good run of top songs. Maybe not like A1 tier, but definitely good B1 tier. And so I think it's quite consistent for me. Unforgettable Fire hits more highs. I think the likes of Pride hits greater highs, but I think there's more lows. Here, I think like some of my favourite songs, Sunday Bloody Sunday and New Year's Day are two of my. I was listening to it today, thinking, why is this lower? Because they're two of my favourite U2 songs. I still prefer Unforgettable Fire as a whole. I think I like that sort of sound, the direction they're going. So I would place that a bit higher then for that reason. But yeah, Sunday Bloody Sunday, New Year's Day, great songs. New Year's Day. It's a great song. Great thing. I like the album version. It has an extra verse in it. Sometimes they do this in a few songs. They have extra verses that crop up now and again. So there's an extra verse in the album version. I suppose that they cut it down for radio. Seconds. One of those songs where when you hear it first, it sort of grates a little bit, but the chorus is good. I like it works well as a whole, and it's it's a good song overall, I think.
I think it's placed well on the album too. It's just maybe if it was in between Sunday Bloody Sunday and New Year's Day, it keeps the energy of the album going. Like it's an energetic song. And I'm a big fan of, if you are a rock band, start off with a bang and don't be producing your ballads too soon. I might have a criticism for later for one of the other albums later on, but they don't do it here anyway, which is good.
Yeah. So and then apart from that, I like Surrender a lot. And 40. So 40 is it's again ending on a prayer. So it's like taken from Psalm 40. So there's all these sort of talks about I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined and heard my cry. I looked out of the miry. He lifted me out of the miry.
Which song is this?
40.
Oh, 40, of course, yeah. A nice song, a nice a change of pace.
Yeah, and it's very famous. Like you used to always play that at the end of the set, and it'd switch. So the Edge would play bass, and Adam Clayton would play guitar. But like he's only just strumming 2 notes. He's going doo doo. He's always playing on the guitar, but there's so much effects on it. It sounds like really huge, but he's only playing 2 notes. It's ridiculous. But but people would be singing song like the end, like the chorus. How long to sing this song? You'd be singing it, walking out. Like they played it when I saw them in Dublin in 2005, and like everybody's singing it, walking out the stadium. Like it's a great moment. It's a really communal moment. So yeah, that's another reason why you do a good live. But so like overall, I think it's a solid package. It works really well, I think, as a whole.
As I say, it you can see as with the rhythm section is much more in control, and you can see that they are progressing as a band. It's still kind of their post-punk era, but they're progressing for sure. They have become better at it's the first album really, where they've actually kind of been able to produce iconic melodies, Sunday Bloody Sunday, the piano line on New Year's Day, and the bass line, and it's just a really iconic song, one of my favourite U2 songs.
they've upped their game a lot.
They've upped their game a lot, and they've added a few. Like it still suffers a little bit from the lack of diversity, I suppose, that at some level, some of the songs do sound the same. The Refugee is a low light for me. I didn't like that song much at all. Yeah. But overall, it's pretty strong record. Again, going back to Sunday Bloody Sunday, probably some of Bono's best lyrics, like which is obviously about Bloody Sunday. Broken bottles under children's feet, bodies strewn across the dead end street. But I won't heed the battle call. It puts my back up against the wall. And then it's the chorus, and the battle's just begun. There's many lost, but tell me who has won. The trench is dug within our hearts, and mothers, children, brothers, sisters torn apart. These are the type of lyrics that I just prefer from Bono. Like they're at least there's it's pretty straightforward what he's saying, and like it's not, don't get me wrong, it's hardly a sophisticated sociological analysis of war and the motivations and tribalism and all that kind of thing. If anything, it's maybe a little bit naive, but at least it's a message that it's nice. It's a good message to be sending people, and it's coming from the heart, and I really respect that.
Yeah, and it's not as he says it's not a rebel song. He says on Under Blood Red Sky. It's the opposite. So like
it's
it's anti-war. Yeah.
It's anti-war. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Takes a second, and then as you say, second. It takes a second to say goodbye. Say goodbye. It's kind of one of those earwormy songs, that can. It's a bit underrated, if anything. Yeah.
I think it improves. Like the chorus is nice. There's a nice balance to the chorus. Like if the chorus didn't come in, the verse is a little bit repetitive. But okay. Well, that's War. I think have we enough?
Yeah, and I don't have much. I'm not going to be shitting on the lyrics too much on this one. I didn't really find anything that was overly
even though you
offensive
did
to
a forensic examination.
Yeah. Well, I think the only reason I'm not is because I didn't bother with the forensic examination at this stage. But look at a solid album, a good solid album by U2 there, and number 4 just goes to show.
Yeah,
all happy enough with that.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one then, number 3, is perhaps a surprise for some, but we have Zooropa at number 3. Both of us ranked at number 3 actually. And for me, it's like Zooropa. This came in. This is the second of the 90s albums. So they did Achtung Baby, and then they're on the Zoo TV tour. That was their tour in 92, 93. And apparently the story was that they had a few songs maybe left over from the Achtung Baby sessions and a few others that they're coming up with. They thought maybe we'll release an EP, it'll help promote the tour. And then I think they said, well, maybe we have enough for an album. So they're going in over and back, flying to Dublin and whatever else they're recording between legs of the tour to finish off the album. Like, they had a break, I think, and then they didn't get it quite done. They're flying over and back. And some people reckon, like, it's divisive. I think some people like it, some people don't. I think my understanding is it got critics liked it, but I think public didn't quite like it. For me, I'm very fond of it. I think it has some very good songs. It's quite experimental in places. It continues the sort of theme from Achtung Baby, and it works well as a whole. There's a nice, like, there's no real low points for me. There's no skips. I'm happy to hear all the songs as they come up, and there's some of my favourite songs. So like the middle passage from Numb right through to maybe Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crash Car, Numb, Lemon, Stay, Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crash Car, all favourite songs of mine. One to highlight, I suppose, Lemon, is, I think it was a single from this album. Not many people like it. One thing I really like about it though is it's there's 3 musical ideas. Like usually in a lot of songs you'd have like the verse and chorus. Here you have like a verse, pre-chorus, and then the chorus, and you know, it adds an extra dimension to it, and which makes it much more, I don't know, just gives it an extra lift. The only other song I can compare that to is Our Friends Electric by Gary Newman, where you have this sort of verse, then it comes into the pre-chorus, and then the chorus comes in as this sort of like an extra riff like in Lemon's case, it's this extra sort of piano arpeggio sort of thing. I think it adds this extra dimension that you don't normally get with a sort of pop song. That Is Gonna Pay for Your Crash Car is another song I really like, and this is during the Zoo tour. That's where Bono, I mentioned before, he had all these different personas. He come out with this Mephisto persona where he was dressed up like almost like a devil, wearing this really gaudy yellow suit, and he just act really sort of, I don't know what the sort of act was. Anyway, it worked really well. I really like that song. It's very different to what they normally would play. And then towards the end, they're quite sort of, it's a more quiet, mellow ending towards it from then on. Stay is a highlight, is one of the best YouTube songs of all. One song as well that do acoustic quite often, works well as an acoustic song. And Numb, a very unusual song where the Edge is sort of rapping almost, and cool sort of guitar.
And he wrote the lyrics as well, the Edge for
did he? Yeah, for Numb. Yeah, it's a weird song, but I like it. I think it was what do you call it? One thing that's really nice about this album that I have to mention is Bono's falsetto. Like, he's really at his peak when it comes to his vocal prowess at this stage. Like, Numb, what really lifts it is the like you have Edge droning on, but then you have this falsetto coming in, giving some more and all that stuff. Like, it gives it that extra lift. And Lemon as well has that sort of falsetto, and it creeps up here and there in other parts.
Yeah, so I want to go back to the song Lemon that you said, because I actually, you highlighted this before I listened to the album. You said, watch out for this song Lemon, and actually I have to say yes, you picked a good one there, because I really enjoyed that song, and I think you've already given as good a reason or better reasons than I can articulate, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on the music itself, but I really like Bono. There's a lot more falsetto in this album, and it's really good in that particular song. But just some of the lyrics are interesting. It is about his mother.
Yeah, so we mentioned this. I think the story is that it's about, he saw a video of his mother, and she was wearing a lemon dress or something. So that's what it's all about. And the video that they recorded for it is almost like about them. It just shows them and sort of get in different ways of like being recorded. So it's like this whole recording process and things on film. Now I wonder, it's about his mother, but it's about the experience of viewing the film. So there's also references to film more generally, I think. Filmmaking process. It's like a man made picture, and all this sort of stuff. Yeah,
it's interesting. Like there's some kind of lyric like she wore lemon but never in the daylight. She's gonna make you cry. She's gonna make you whisper and moan. Now, those sound like very emotional lyrics, but in the context of the music and the singing, it's like, she's gonna make you cry.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a nice juxtaposition there. I can't do a falsetto at the moment to save my life for whatever reason. She had heaven and she held on so tight. And I think the chorus is like, a man makes a picture, a moving picture. Through the light projected, he can see himself up close. A man captures colour, a man likes to stare. He turns his money into light to look for her. And then he says, I feel like I'm drifting from the shore. What do you make of those lyrics?
The lyrics, well, that bit at the end of the song, that I feel I'm drifting from the shore, like that's, and I'm feeling like I'm swimming out to her. And then the arpeggios come in, like then it sort of lifts, like he's sort of pulling back, and then boom, it sort of takes off, which musically works really well.
Yeah.
In terms of the lyrics, like what is he? He's talking about it's talking about the experience of watching the film, I think, and his mother, and what emotions it conjures up. Like I think there's more to it than some of the other songs, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely does seem to be like there seems to be an element of him talking about, all this ambition and all this drive that he has as a man, and it's all like but at the same time, like I'll give you another example of this. A man makes a car, she's your destination, and builds a road to get on. Gotta get to her. A man dreams of leaving, but he always stays behind. And these are the days when our work has come asunder. Oh yeah, I remember. And these are the days when our work has come asunder, and these are the days when we look for something other.
And then
midnight is where the day begins. It just kind of feels like here's the last part. He turns his money into light to look for her. Now she is the dreamer, she's imagination, she had heaven. Through the light projected, he can see himself up close. So you might I don't know much about the film aspect to this interpretation, so I'm only going to hunt for my own subtext or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But it kind of the idea I got from this song is that he is trying to, I don't know, it's kind of like all this ambition and all this kind of trying to recreate, through art even, or recreate her, to bring her back to life through his own art.
Yeah.
And through all this, trying to bring her back to life through the art. He's kind of realizing, but he's still drifting further from the shore. It's not working, I could be reading into something that isn't there, but that's a very good one. What about the song with Johnny Cash? I don't know the story behind this. The Wanderer. I really like the ending to it. It's a nice, to hear Johnny Cash where the bass is boom, 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 boom. It's like it's kind of mashing the country style with a very industrial kind of pop rock. It's a mashing of those two styles that does actually kind of work. I actually really like that song. If you have anything to say about that one?
Yeah, no, it is. It's nice. It's like, again, it's ended on almost like a prayer, because it's a very religious type of song, and they're talking about God and all that sort of stuff. I think Johnny Cash is a Christian as well, so himself and Bon have a lot in common there, and it's good. Like, it won't be my favourite part, but it is an unusual, like, it goes back to like they got guests on for Rattling Home, like they got B.B. King on, so like they're bringing in Johnny Cash here. It's unusual that Johnny Cash is singing completely without Bono, but it is a nice.
That must have hurt Bono so much.
But it is a good. Yeah, no, I never thought about that context. Like, it is good. Sort of just a juxtaposition there. You have Johnny Cash and his sort of style, and it's very different to U2's style, and especially U2's Europa style. It does work well. It's a strange. It's probably the best place for it at the end. Like, Dirty Day is a nice end to the album. Would have been a nice end to the album, but The Wanderer, yeah. Stay is like one of the top U2 songs.
Yes, I actually agree with you there. Yeah, and you mentioned that, and I go into the lyrics. Yeah, it's one of their best ever ballads, isn't it? Like, I really like it, and I like the lyrics as well. Can you believe it? Another song of U2's that I like the lyrics of. Yeah. So why do you love this song so much?
It's a good, well constructed song, and the chorus is quite simple but works well related to everything else. It's not like, for example, Moments of Surrender, where it feels like it falls flat. It does lift it. It does sort of have a lift there, which helps a lot. The lyrics are quite good. Like, you can follow a narrative there.
There is a narrative. Yeah. Can I just go through a few of them here?
Yeah.
It does. Like, I like a song that creates a specific vision in my head. So like, so your wheels are turning, but you're upside down. You say when he. Oh yeah. So you say when he hits you, you don't mind, because when he. Or I might be getting this wrong, but because when he hurts you, you feel alive. And I remember it's oh dear, is that what it is? And like, it just, for some reason, that feels profound to me. What that it's almost like she got the character mind a bit of Stockholm syndrome with in an abusive relationship. Am I reading too literally into this, or is that you're reading?
Well, one thing about the song, so it was written for that film Far Away So Close, so that's why there's like there's like, I don't know, I haven't seen the film though, so I don't know anything about it. But I think like in the video, like, and I think it's the story of the film, where it's about all these sort of angels in Berlin, and they're almost like guardian angels watching over people. And I don't know much about it after that. I think somebody falls from heaven and tries to become a human. I don't know what exactly happens in it, but that's what goes on in the video. I don't know if that's what the song is about. I don't really get that. Like, the stumble out of a hole on the ground and all this sort of stuff, it feels like that's very much what Immortal is doing.
Yeah, there's really great lyrics. Like I'll say, you stumble out of a hole in the ground, on red lights, grey morning. You stumble out of a hole in the ground. A vampire, a victim. It depends on who's around. Which we can all relate to, I suppose, in a way. I think like
After
all vampires are victims, or all victims, that if you are if you're usually a bad person, it's usually to do you've been you've been hurt in the past or whatever yourself. You could lip sync to the so you used to stay in to watch the adverts. You could lip sync to the talk shows. Like if you look through me. It just sounds like this.
It's
person.
good imagery as well.
Great imagery, yeah. And when you talk, you talk at me. And when I touch you, you don't feel a thing. If I could stay, then the night would give you up. Stay, and the day would keep its trust. Stay, and the night would be enough. Like far away, so close. It's kind of like maybe there's a bit of a savior. He's got a bit of a savior complex in this song. As he's talking to this woman he's trying to save, or once again, I could be reading this wrong. But it is kind of powerful image of I'm not imagining the other person that they're kind of more numb, and that they're not there anymore, that because of the hurt or whatever pain they're in, he can't, it's not the same person anymore. It's like maybe it's a theme that was he explored in the song Bad, of course, from Beyond Forgettable Fire, but for whatever reason this song moves me, because I can grab onto the predicament of a character, unlike a lot of the other songs and the lyrics in other songs where I find them to be just a little bit too vague and ambiguous, that there's nothing to grab onto.
It's much less vague, and it is. It's definitely a step up in songwriting. When it comes to the other songs, then Numb is, as we said, it's the Age doing his rapping, and then
doing a bit of a what you call it.
It's like Right Said Fred.
A bit of a sunscreen, just giving people advice. Don't move, don't talk all the time, don't think, don't worry. Everything just fine. Don't grab.
It's
don't
more like
clutch.
but it's like that, right? Right Said Fred. Remember that song "I'm Too Sexy"? That's what it's like.
But what's nice about it is it just feels so different. It feels new. Hearing a song like that feels like I enjoy it, especially because the first many of the albums, there's not much variety in what you two do, musically, and just something like that just feels different, and that's like music to my ears. And when I've been having to listen to 14 albums in the back, it was just so nice. I might be overrating this song on the basis of the fact that it just feels so much different to a lot of other stuff. But it's kind of cool, yeah.
And
he's got all these advice, and I like, don't spill, don't piss in the drain, don't make a will, don't fill out any forms, don't come. I don't know what to make of them, but
don't expect. Suggest, I think, is the only bit of advice that I think is actually good out of that.
Don't triumph, don't coax, don't cling. I think his expectations are a little bit too unrealistic. There's too many. If you're going to give people too many requirements. If you're going to give people advice, it's a bit like just keep it simple. 3 or 4 at a time at least. This is way too much. No one's going to follow this wish list of or this. But anyway.
So that was and I don't know if there's any other songs to point out. Like Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crash Car is one I like. It has a cool sort of melody. It's very, very different. It's almost like it starts off this almost like a Soviet type of I think it's a classical piece of some sort, but this sort of orchestral.
Yes, yeah.
And then it comes into the sort of the heavy sort of riff, and it's very it has a sort of industrial sound. It's almost like a bin lid snare drum type sound, but it sounds good. I like it a lot. It's very different because it's different, and creative. Like they're doing something creative here, and
it's from start to finish. Now I will say Zooropa starts off so interestingly, and I did find that the song Zooropa, it's still enjoyable, but a little bit of a letdown, because the way that first 30 to 60 seconds, there's a lot of very interesting kind of atmospheric stuff going on, where I'm kind of, wow, where is this song going to go? And then it just kind of turns into a kind of a nice, pleasant poppy sound, but it's still good.
Yeah.
Babyface, I think that Numb, Lemon and Stay and Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Cars is the strongest section of the album, but it's enjoyable the whole way through. The one thing I will say is that the first time, my God, it's definitely not the first time I've heard a song sound like that from U2. Anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's grand.
It sounds like Bad. It sounds like All I Need Is, But All I Need Is You. It sounds like Run to Sound. It's such a familiar chord progression and melody for U2. It's still good. It's still enjoyable. Fine.
Dirty Day is one I like a lot. I have to say, it gets. It's mellow, but it builds up. There's a bit of a climax to it, and it's a bit more of a bite to it. It feels like.
Yeah, but there does seem to be a coherent new sound, a coherent theme. It's some strong lyrics in a lot of these songs. I didn't find too much to argue with really. And yeah, 1 to 10. I think it's maybe one of the most underrated albums.
Yeah, definitely. So this is not like a lot of people wouldn't rate this. I imagine any YouTube fans, if anybody's listening, would perhaps say Unforgettable Fire at the very least higher than this. But yeah, I think it's underrated. I think as a whole it works really well as a unit, and more so than maybe Unforgettable Fire. Although the highs in Unforgettable Fire are arguably higher than here. But if I was to put on a U2 album, I'd put this on, and I want to just have it on, listen to the album through. I'd put this one on before Unforgettable Fire. We're talking about albums here, and that's why it's where it is.
Yeah, I get that. So we're on to our final two, and which one is going to be our top one? Because number two, if you've been paying attention, you'll know what number one is. Number two. It's hardly surprising. It's not like we're throwing a curveball. It's like these two are.
The thing we have here, okay, well, so we could the top two are Achtung Baby and Joshua Tree, and I suppose. Thing about it is here, Shane ranked Joshua Tree 1, I ranked Achtung Baby 1, but for me they're very, very similar. So maybe what we'll do is Achtung Baby 2 and then Joshua Tree, we'll put that as the 1, but they're both sort of, it's a very close, it's a marginal difference, but okay, we'll go Achtung Baby now maybe.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Achtung Baby was 1991, am I right?
Yeah, so this is as we said already, the first of the 90s albums, they had their Americana with Rattling Home and Joshua Tree, and then they said we have to go away and dream it all up again. And apparently they went off to Berlin, and the Berlin Wall had just fallen. They spent some time in Berlin. They were trying to go for more European sound apparently, as opposed to the American sound. So they were trying to get this sort of electronic krautrock, which I don't really know what that is. I think it's I don't know. Anyway, sort of more European electronic type sounds, and I presume people like Kraftwerk, that sort of thing. And they went to Berlin. Apparently, they didn't get on. They didn't enjoy their time in Berlin. They were there just after the wall came down, so things were not really. There was a place that was a bit hectic. It was winter. They didn't like the winter. The European, the German winter, is not pleasant, or it's very cold. And they nearly felt they're sort of falling out. There's loads of stories about when they're where they're going, what they're going to do. They want to try something different, explore different sounds, and there's a few stories about what they explored. And there's one song actually, and you see it on the B-sides for Achtung Baby, Lady with the Spinning Head. Never and apparently they spent a lot of time working on that, and I never actually turned it into a song. But loads of ideas came from that. So I think until if you listen to it at the very end, you hear bits that come from Until the End of the World. You also get other bits of songs. I think Mysterious Ways, a few other songs came out of that. And I think one other thing to note from that recording session was apparently they were working on Mysterious Ways, and I think it was Mysterious Ways. They're trying to come up with some sort of a different idea, and then the Age, and you see these videos of them playing the tapes back, and the Age said, and now this is the moment, and he starts playing he's looking for a different sort of interlude, and then he starts playing the chords for one, and I said, and then God entered the room, and then we have and bestowed one upon us, and this is the idea, as if this is the breakthrough in the recording session. They got this great record, but it's just a normal chord, it's a very straightforward.
C, A minor, D, F and G,
something like that, yeah.
And then of course a C, A minor,
which is a very
F
basic.
seven,
it's like if you're going to what the chord progression is, it's one I don't know. It's 1 2 6 4 or like it or anyway. It's a very very standard chord progression that you get in pop songs. Basically, it's not something really unusual. But anyway, I think that was the breakthrough. But yeah, and then one thing I suppose it's very different in style. It's more that's not the actual track list. It's very different in style than the than Achtung Baby, than Joshua Tree, where that was all American sort of visions of being in the desert. Where here it's more industrial sort of sounds and type sort of image they're going for. They talk about Zoo Station, like the opening to Zoo Station, this sort of really aggressive, distorted riff, and Bono describes it as cutting down the Joshua Tree. That's what they're going for. With it's because it sounds a bit like a I don't know, a chainsaw or whatever. What else? Oh yeah, they embraced the sort of irony that we talked about already. So basically, the whole idea here is like these sort of super like overstimulation when they're playing it live, and yeah, that's what I felt in. How do you feel about the album, the songs in general?
Yeah, look, I gotta say that it's a strong album from start to finish. I don't have it as high, or I prefer Joshua Tree to it because I just feel like the best Joshua Tree songs are better than the best songs from Achtung Baby. But if you look into the track list there, it's all pretty good stuff. I guess, like, you know, we're in the top two of U2 here now, and I can recognize that this is a good album, but for whatever reason, I think I'm seeing that why I'm not that massive a U2 fan is that it's enjoyable to listen to, you know, from start to finish. They're all pretty catchy, very catchy songs. You know, a pretty unique sound. Well, not a unique sound for U2. Very different to, as you say, Joshua Tree. It's kind of a little bit more industrial, which I think they probably did a little bit better in Europa. But I think maybe they have just better actual. The songwriting here is a bit stronger maybe than Europa. Europa is a great album from the point of view of it having some great songs, but also just having a coherent mood. And this one also does have a coherent mood. With enough variety to not make it stale by the time it comes towards the end. We talk about Zoo Station, like the thing is, you know, and it reminds me of the guitar from Numb, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what Edge is doing in those.
He's just sort of boom, boom, boom. Like, it's not doing a whole lot.
Some sort of, it's just. But again, it just a lot of just a lot of catchy hooks. In fairness, you know, like one thing about Bono, he does have a great ear for catchy vocal hooks. Like, you know, I can't do it. Anything, I won't be able to do any falsetto for the rest of the day. But even better than The Real Thing, you know, ding, ding, ding. It's just Until the End of the World, which is a song that I knew, but I never really was give it a good chance. But it's a great track. The Fly, great chorus to that song. Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses? I find that song to be a little bit overrated in the
it's only it won't be
feels like
top.
The verse to it is you're just kind of waiting for, you know, it's one of those songs where okay, the verse is meh, and you're just waiting for the chorus to hit, and the chorus kind of soars. But you know, great songs should have a bit.
I think The Edge was going through a breakup, and I think that's what that's about. Apparently, I don't know much about it though.
Oh, okay.
So Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horse is yeah.
Well, let's have a re-look at You're Dangerous Because You're Honest. You're dangerous. You don't know what you want. Why you left my heart empty as a vacant lot.
Now, vacant lot is not a term that aren't in the streets of wherever.
Yeah, of
wherever
North
Niall,
Dublin.
wherever they're from. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love it. Anyway, in any case, it's a strong album. There's no getting away from it. There's not really any weak songs, I don't think. Is it? Would you?
Well, so like for me, I agree with you that the highs on Joshua Tree are probably higher than here. Like the Joshua Tree is where all the hits are, or where all the really, they really pull out all the stops. some of my favourite songs are on this album though, so that's why I perhaps prefer it. Songs, Mysterious Ways, great, like a cool sort of, slightly different for the age. He has a sort of wah wah type sound. It's on like that sort of waka waka type sound on the guitar. That works really well. Ultraviolet, Light My Way. That's a song that was a real grower, and it's one that like when they're doing it live, he used to like every leg on that tour. He'd ring up George Bush Senior, and he'd be on the phone. Now I don't know did he ring them once and use the recording, but you see him on the phone, and he has a microphone on the phone, and then he's talking to the person on the reception, and then he's trying to ask him for George and all this sort of stuff, and then he starts and he's still holding the phone and starts singing the song down the phone. It's just really cool. It's just such a cool like moment that you don't get you wouldn't get that at radio. Okay, Radiohead would have more sense to be doing silly things like that, but I mean, you don't get these sort of theatrical elements to other shows, and it's cool. Like, it's a cool one of these songs that I really started to love after I saw in that film, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. I don't know if you've seen that film about the guy with this locked-in syndrome.
It's a French film, isn't it? But I haven't seen it. No.
There's a moment where it switches from where I think he's reminiscing of like he has this locked-in syndrome. He's not able to move, and then he has memories of before he got the syndrome, and then it was bang into the riff of Ultraviolet, and it just works so well. And it's one of those moments that really sort of solidified it as one of my favourite songs. My favourite song of all by U2 is Until the End of the World, and live it's a great song. It's one apparently it's the story of the taking of Christ from the perspective of Judas, which is interesting way to do things again. Bono having like a religious type of theme, but like it's a rocky song, and I really go for it live, and that really, that's the one that I really sort of. What
do you think Until the End of the World is about?
It's the whole story is about like it's talking about the Last Supper, and he's like, I haven't seen you in quite a while, we're down the hall wasting time. Last time we met was in a low lit room. We were close together as a bride and groom. That's like the last summer. We ate the food, we drank the wine. Everybody having a good time until you talked about the end of the world or something like that. And that's probably when Jesus says, some of you would betray me or something like that.
Yeah, it says, I took the money, I spiked your drink. You miss too much these days if you stop to think. You lead me on with those innocent eyes. You know I love the element of surprise. In the garden I was playing the tart. I kissed your lips and broke your heart.
And there's probably a double meaning there. Like it could be a relationship type thing as well. Maybe you might be alluding to. You might be trying to just leave it open to interpretation, and these sort of have multiple meanings behind it. Because it I don't know.
Look at it's fine. I think like as far as I'm concerned, there was nothing that lyrically that stood out to me as being egregious. Like I know I'm always in default mode when it comes to lyrics. I should be like, oh, U2, what's egregious here instead of what's great here. But I think in this particular podcast, this particular episode where we're going to top four, I think I've had more praise for the lyrics than I've had criticism. It's kind of, it's just one of those albums where it's just loads of catchy songs, Mysterious Ways, On Your Knees, and like there's lots of very iconic kind of little lines from Bono, just on your knees now, down, down. Like it's just a catchy riff, catchy vocal hook. She moves in mysterious ways. And even the bass line is a really catchy bass line to that song. So it's all pretty good stuff. I think it's even bongos and stuff like that, which is nice to hear, a little bit of variety.
And it is very different. Like when they're playing it live, then more recently especially, they change it up a good bit. Like there'll be this sort of slide guitar solo, which is really like at the end, which really brings it up to another climax. Like it does take it to another level. You hear a song, but it's changed slightly. It keeps it interesting for you, and it really adds another layer to it. The one thing as well about U2 is because they've been in the game so long, when they're doing these live shows, they have almost like callbacks to old shows. Like when you see them in 2005, they had a section, a Zoo TV section, where they'd almost like replicate what they did during Zoo TV, and they still sort of do that now. But yeah, Mysterious Ways would have cropped up there until the end of the world. Zoo Station. So the big one is One, which is like one of their like up there with Beautiful Day as one of their
it's one of their most famous iconic songs. So like we can't analyze this record without at least going into some sort of detail on what your thoughts about One is. I can start or you can start. I don't mind.
My thoughts are it's a great, like it is a good song. It's a great song. More about a breakup than a love song. But you know, a lot of people use it for their wedding song.
Could this also be you know, because Bono is still with his wife. Bono's never broken up with his wife.
I know, yeah.
So could this, you know, is this another song that is maybe
With The Edge?
Yeah, inspired by The Edge's experiences?
I don't know, maybe. But like, it's a good song. It is a good song, and it has an interesting guitar riff, which is quite different.
Which one, like?
Well, like the actual, like, okay, it's a basic chord progression, but like the riff that goes on it, boom, boom, ba-doom, ba-doom.
Yeah, and look, it is, you know, it's like, as I say, quite earwormy, and lyrics are pretty good. You know, like this whole will it make it easier on you now? You got someone to blame. Like, it's that to me sounds like it's almost, but maybe I'm reading into something too much here, but it makes it seem like one of the people did the dirt, right?
Yeah.
But they only did the dirt because the other person wasn't giving them the love. It wasn't because they want, you know, it's like they did the dirt because they felt that the other person was being distant, whatever. And now that I'm not going to use genders or whatever, but
yeah.
But now that the person has seen the other person do the dirt, it's making it easier now. Now you can break up with me now. You can blame me now. No, go ahead and do it. You don't have to feel guilty anymore. Like, that's kind of my what I bring to it. Maybe this is the advantage of having ambiguous lyrics. Is that the point is that
the listener
you touch on something, but you don't be too explicit about it because it allows people to bring their own.
Yeah, and they pick the bit that resonates with them. I think it's one of his better lyrics. Like, it's one of the better of all. Like, it's not as vague, and it's actually about something that, like, you can. It's definitely about some sort of relationship. So it's very clear at that, and then you can sort of lay on your own relationship experiences if you wanted to on top of that.
Yeah, but as I said, the problem I have with a lot of his lyrics is that some of the stuff doesn't seem to follow unless he's changing characters, but it doesn't seem like he's changing characters, because will it make it easier on you now that you've got someone to blame? But then later on he's saying, have you come here for forgiveness? Have you come? So I thought you had someone to blame, but now you want forgiveness? I don't understand. Have you come to raise the dead? Have you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your heads? What's he saying?
Well, like, now you've got someone to blame, but it's not necessarily.
Maybe I committed too soon to my theory about the breakup.
Yeah. But well, like, yeah. Like, for example, if you're saying doesn't make it, like, basically, he's sort of resentful of the other person, that they have some feelings, and then maybe he can still be resentful and ask them, "Oh, you're turning up now looking for forgiveness." Yeah, it's hard to know.
Wait a second. But I thought he's saying, will it make it easier on you now that you've got someone to blame? So, like, why are you turning up for forgiveness? It's either.
Oh yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you who's blaming
who
who here?
wrong here?
Yeah. but then in the choruses, but all that stuff is. But it's just one love, one life. We got to share it. Leaves you baby if you don't care for it. That's a great sentiment. It's like you have to work for this stuff, right? We have to be. I think the idea of the song is we have issues, but we have to work through it, and the idea of bringing this thing. Did you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your head? I just can't get my head around that line. To the lepers in your head, it's a bit I have to say, a bit dismissive of lepers in general. Like, you know, like there's nothing wrong with being a leper. But like, yeah, I suppose the idea behind it, well, we hurt each other, then we do it again. You say love is a temple, love a higher law, love is a temple, love the higher law. Like, she's saying, you say love is a temple, love is a higher law. Like, she's saying it, but there's a lot of mixed messages in this song. It's like, because apparently she's saying it, but he's also trying to persuade her. Is this something that she said in the past, or why am I saying she? It could be he, it could be whatever. But
yeah, I know what you mean though.
But I suppose the main idea is that you like one love, you gotta share it. You gotta. It
leaves your baby if you don't care for it.
It leaves your baby if you don't care for it. That's a pretty profound statement. It's true, right? It's true. There's a lot of again, it seems to me like non sequiturs or confusion over who's saying what to who in this song, or who's at fault. It might not. It doesn't even have to be a love song. It can be for something wider about a society coming together, where there's one group who, he'd probably go to Rwanda and go, here, listen, Hutus and Tutsis, listen to this now, listen to these lyrics, all right? You don't have to blame someone, you have to work together, like I can imagine. Don't imagine him having that. Well, anyway, but look, I think it's a bit, as a song, it's a little bit overrated. I think the chord progression is just so familiar that
it's a definitely better ballad. Like I think
better ballads.
They're better ballads. Like it's not even the best U2 song.
But it's still a good song. It's still a good song, and we had to because of its popularity, we had to give it its due. Another little song I quite like is the end. I like the way they usually close with kind of a more moody kind of tune, and as you say, a prayer. Is this a prayer? I don't
think so.
I don't think it's
not
a
in
prayer,
this case.
but it is a nice moody song that finishes off the album.
Love is Blindness. Yeah, great song.
Love is blindness.
But it's also it's a love song with a bit of a bite, which is somewhat unusual. Like it's not as common, which is refreshing in a way. And I do like that song a lot. Another one to mention is Acrobat. This is a fan favorite that for many years they never actually played it live, and there was huge campaigns to try and get them to play Acrobat. They never would have played it. But the last
it's
tour,
a bit of a banger. Like that song is a bit of a banger, isn't it?
Yeah, and the last tour they've played it, like they put it on regular rotation last tour. So like they have turned around. But it is a bit of a banger. And again, it's a bit more of a Don't Let the Bastards Grind You Down. It's a bit more of a sharp sentiment. They don't normally have curses in their lyrics, especially not in the chorus. But
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that could be why they never played it live, because they didn't want to be cursing in a concert. I don't know, but it is a good tune. It's a great tune. It's one of the top tunes, I think. There's a few that I don't like. Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World and So Cruel are fine. Like if you're playing the album through, you won't skip them, but I won't be putting them on.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, and just going back, like I'm not gonna let you go through a full album of U2 without, I'm not gonna without criticizing some lyrics. Like, love is, which one is this now? Love is clockwork and cold, your fingers too numb to feel. Squeeze the handle, blow out the candle. Love is blindness. Do you know what? Actually, no. There's one line in this that actually I did like, but there's not much to grab onto. Baby, a dangerous idea that also makes sense.
And the way it builds up at the end, then with the guitar comes in and it just lifts it, like it just comes in more tense. It adds like this emotional intensity comes with it. It's it's great. It's one of my favorites.
Maybe there was a song here that I point and found. I don't need to. I'm gonna. Do you know what? I'm gonna give you a pass lyrically on this album, Bono. Well done.
One thing, before we leave Zoo Station, I just want to mention as well. So Zoo Station, it's one of my favorites U2 songs, and also it's a great opener of the
new era.
Yeah, but also then when they were doing it live, you'd see that, like, if you watch the Zoo TV live tour, like The Edge does that sort of riff. And you see all these images of like videos, like loads of stuff going on the camera, and then there's like this European Union flag, and then Bono comes up behind it, and he does all like he's doing this sort of fly character that he does, which is a real over the top pop star, and he comes in and you just see his silhouette, and then you see him just walking down, and then the riff starts in the sort of the typical U2 sort of chiming riff, and then Bono's coming out and he's smoking a fag and all this. It's just really cool. Like I'm watching that as a 13, 14-year-old and think this is the shit. But yeah, I don't know.
No, you got when they commit to something, they commit to it fully, which is why they get away with it often, even if it is like in like one of his lyrics that I mentioned earlier on. He says he really respects the right to be, or he values the right to be ridiculous, and they commit to something and they believe it themselves. And when you believe in something yourself, it rubs off on the the fans and the Fly kind of one of the. I know we should move on from this one. Is The Fly considered a U2 classic? Is one of those that its opinion.
It's a bit like a Vertigo. So like it's a better version of Vertigo, but like it was a lead single, I think. I'm pretty sure it's the lead single. It's good. They're going for the rocky sound. It's like a Vertigo, but I think it's a much better Vertigo. And
I agree.
I don't know if I think a lot of people sort of got sick of it after a while. It was on regular rotation. They played it during Zoo TV. They played it in the other, like definitely in the Elevation tour and the one after it. It was played the whole time. So it's definitely one of the more popular songs. I don't know if people consider it a classic. As much as a classic as Vertigo, maybe. So that's where I'd rate it.
Well, the question I'd ask is, you make this point that they brought back loads of irony. From all the songs, I don't see any irony in the actual lyrics of the songs. Like he's playing this fly, but he's like, what he's saying here is, it's no secret that a friend is someone who lets you help. Yeah, it's no secret that a liar won't believe anyone else. Yeah, that makes sense. They say a secret is something you tell one other person. Or there's other things, like it's no secret that a conscience can sometimes be a pest. He's just kind of saying it's no secret ambition bites the nails of success. Every artist is a cannibal, every poet is a thief. These are like fine lyrics because he's kind of saying stuff. Yeah, fair enough, true enough. But where is the irony? Where's the
not so
we're
much
falling
in
from the
the
sky, a man will rise, a man will fall. Yeah, true, the rise and fall. Yeah, like where's the irony? I don't see it.
I agree. Not so much in the lyrics at all. Actually, the lyrics, in terms of lyrics, it's business as usual. It's the same as Joshua Tree. I think the only difference is.
But maybe the whole "a man will rise, a man will fall" is in reference to they rose so high with Joshua Tree, and then they got a little bit of a fall from Rattling Home, and he's mentioning that. I don't know.
When I think about the irony, I think more in their presentation and the whole attitude, like the way the whole image and everything that goes with it. Like they put so much effort into that, and like there's loads of people around thinking carefully of what they're wearing, all this sort of stuff, and then they just completely overhauled that, and it was over the top rock star. That was the theme basically, but yeah, not necessarily. It doesn't necessarily come through in the music.
Fair enough. But overall,
yeah, like my favourite probably. Very similar to Joshua Tree, only it has a few songs that are my personal favourites, like Until the End of the World. Yeah.
All right,
a bit
brilliant.
more experimental as well, which
yeah, and I found it a strong album, and yeah, just a solid listen from front to back, and yeah, I do think it's a very good album. Yeah.
Okay, right, we've got to number one, or joint one, or just nosing ahead at number one. So Joshua Tree. So for me, I had technically.
But what I'm just gonna say is that my one criticism is that, like, it doesn't blow my I think to me it's like 4 stars out of 5 type of album. Like it's very enjoyable, good songs, but just doesn't absolutely blow my mind. I'm not like listening to this kind of going, oh my god, this music is just so original, it's so creative, it's so incredible. It's just they're doing what they do really well, and they're nailing what they do really well. And I know it's something new, that they've been new sound, and they brought in a kind of a new, a little bit more industrial, like the drumming sounds industrial, the bass is a bit fuzzier. They're still doing it's still based on basic chord progressions and so on.
Yeah, but like I think this is, I don't know if we mentioned this already, but my take on it is it's a bit like they come from they sort of influence what's going on everywhere else, and they take when it comes to the Venn diagram of people in different genres, they're not the hardcore rockers or anything. They're sort of whoever's converges in the middle, and they take bits and pieces from everything. They try and do their version of stuff, and it's a bit more accessible, but it's not necessarily the really hardcore top stuff. Okay, we're down to the top album, and no surprise, the top album is the Joshua Tree. So Joshua Tree, probably peak U2. This is where, like, 87, they were on the rise from, like, War definitely upped their game a little bit, Unforgettable Fire up a bit more, and then they really put everything behind it and went full on into, like, that sort of atmospheric sound, and then embraced sort of Americana, or what they, like, creating sort of images of deserts and all that sort of stuff, and try to really embrace the sort of American vibe when it comes to this album. Has all, like, when you think of U2 songs, this is what I think of, really. Like, Where the Streets Have No Name, Still Have Been Following, Looking For, With or Without You. Like, side A of Joshua Tree, like, it's top.
Iconic, isn't it? Like, yeah.
And then, like, even side B, I think, is excellent too. Like, some great songs. Like, I don't think, unlike Achtung Baby, I don't think there is a bad song here. I think they're all great, and even the bad song, like Trip Through Your Wires, is probably the weakest song for me, but it's still not a bad song. Like, it's still a decent song. But they really are hitting the really high notes here with the likes of Where the Streets Have No Name. One thing just I thought was interesting, I was trying to really get into, like, you asked a question earlier on about what sort of influence did Eno have, and I know he sort of set up the recording when it came to Moment of Surrender, and he was really instrumental in that song. And I wondered, was he the key man when it came to Where the Streets Have No Name, because it has that intro with the organs, and then the riff comes in, and I felt like that could really be something Eno could have contributed. I looked it up there, and the story is that apparently the album more or less written, and then The Age said, we don't have this atmospheric song, like a big iconic live song that we want to play. And then he went off himself one night and he came up with the chord, like the whatever you call it, the organs, and then he came in with the riff. And apparently when he had this together, he was like jumping around the room thinking, right, I have a hit on the hands. I don't think he was right. Like, it's probably I think it's their best song. It's when I think of U2, this is their iconic song.
I'd say it's the most iconic song, yeah.
And yeah, but so
The Edge did the organs himself.
Apparently that's he put it all, and then when they came back in, another thing is, the story is that they spent most of their time working on that song when they were recording the album, and the main reason was, like, the intro is in a different time, so it's 6/4, so like 6 beats per bar as opposed to 4 beats per bar. Most songs are 4 beats per bar. Yeah. This is 6 cross beats per bar, and then it switches from that into normal 4/4 when you go into the actual verse.
Yeah.
And apparently they had a big falling out that they couldn't or like coordinate. Like, I think it's the transition part is difficult. Now, if you try to listen to the song, you're tapping along to it. You can tap along to the first part, and there is a bit in the middle where it gets a bit loosey goosey. You don't know what's going on. So I can see how it might frustrate them. But, like, that's a couple of hours work for professional musicians to iron out. It's not 6 months of work of an arguing. Or however long they took to argue about it. But apparently that was an issue. I think it's iconic, and yeah, some great songs. What are your initial thoughts?
I won't give you my initial thoughts. I'll just give my general thoughts.
Yeah.
I think it's their strongest album. Yeah, I think the difference between it and Achtung Baby is I just think the strongest songs are just that bit more iconic, that bit better. Like, Where the Streets Have No Name, I Still Haven't Found What You're Looking For, With or Without You, and Blood of the Blue Sky. Just what a brilliant first 4 songs. Blood of the Blue Sky is one of my favourite U2 songs. It's kind of one of the few U2 songs, which is surprising for a rock band. it's a few U2 songs where could have it in the earphones, and it could be wherever I am, and I would have been listening to a lot of these albums in public transport. But when that song came on, I found myself kind of, do you know that kind of way, just nodding along, just kind of, just getting taken over by the groove, or the groove kind of consumes you, like so. Where the streets have no name, so it's kind of an iconic one. Even the lyrics, as vague again and ambiguous as they are.
Apparently, it's about the north, where your street sort of places you on where you are, where your political affiliations lie, or whatever. So he's sort of thinking, well, what about a world where the streets have no name? And then he has another sort of African type of sort of interpretation of it as well. That's the story I heard about it. But it is very vague. Like, we're still, it's hard to know what he's actually going for on it.
Well, I have read up a little bit about this song. I just thought it was kind of funny that Bono was inspired by, as you say, by the North, that basically he discovered, like the way it was phrased was, he discovered that streets had different names, and the way you know how wealthy a person is by the name of the street. And he discovered this, and he was horrified, and he had to write a song about it. Now this might be a BS kind of a story, but it just, if it is true, it's kind of funny, because
I think it's because I think in some African countries where you always that there's no names on the streets. Maybe that's the difference. That's where it came from. I don't know.
But like, okay, let's just go in straight to the lyrics. Have one more little peek at them, or if you don't mind, or maybe we can go. I will say another thing about this is that I think this album is Bono at his best vocally, like
he's really belting it out, and live, like he really sort of belts out tunes, the notes.
So I want to run, I want to hide, I want to tear down the walls that hold me inside. That can be interpreted lots of ways, about wanting freedom, about wanting these, wanting to break through the restrictions. It could be psychological restrictions, it could be external, restrictions, whether to do with your family, country, whatever, right? So you can read into lots of that hold me inside. I want to reach out and touch the flame where the streets have no name. Like the idea of the flame where the streets have no name, I think is what he's going for there. It's this thing that reach out and touch the flame, like that it's the forbidden fruit kind of thing, or what is he going for?
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe like I want to feel sunlight on my face, see the dust cloud. So much see the dust cloud disappear without a trace. I want to take shelter from the poison rain. The amount of bloody weather metaphors in all his lyrics. It's like, are you by album mate, I was like, are you serious? Another metaphor to do with the wind blowing through your face, or the rain I don't know, pelting down, like it's, oh my God, it gets a bit grating after a while. The cities afloat, our love turns to rust. We're beaten and blown, but at the same time we're beaten. It is the cities afloat and our love turns to rust. We're beaten and blown by the wind, trampled in dust. I'll show you a place high in a desert plain where the streets have no name. So I guess the idea is, I want to. He's dreaming about utopia, I suppose. Is that
something
kind of
like that? Yeah.
That where there's no divisions, where there's peace, where there's harmony between human beings. It's all kind of a nice feels naive, but I think it's something we can relate to. Like, who wouldn't love a place like that where there's no social divisions? Oh, sorry, the anti-communists. Go on ahead.
The lyrics don't really do much for me in most of the songs. Okay, there is a bit more in some of the others, like Still Having Fun, what I'm looking for. Still Having Fun.
So tell me about the lyrics from Still Having Fun.
Well, it's like a gospel song. I think they're going for the Americana type feel, and they go for different types of American type aspects of American culture. Like, they're painting this picture of different parts of America. A lot of it is sort of desert type men or women out in the middle of of rural parts of America, and this is more, I suppose, sort of a gospel type song. That's what they're trying to sort of tap into.
But only to be with you, I have run, I have crawled, I have scaled these city walls, only to be with you. Who is the you?
I presume it's like a love song. Like it's all very like it's the same sort of vagueness. There's not. I don't know. I don't even know. Like there's nothing solid in any of these songs. But also, if he's run and all these things he's travelled, but he still hasn't found what he's looking for, it's like he's. It's like I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. It's like you're being directed to one thing, but it's actually about another thing. But which doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a kind of religious imagery. I believe in the kingdom come, then all the colours will bleed into one. It's a bleed into one. I'm totally out of tune there, but yes, I'm still running. I don't know. There's something about it. There's something about it.
It has a nice atmosphere. Like the riff it's the same sort of sparse notes, but then he has this is the edge in full flow when it comes to using the delay pedal, and he's using it to full effect here. Like only a few notes, but then he it's filled out with using the delay effect. And you can hear that especially on the live Rattle and Hum version that they do. Where the Streets of No Name uses delay to the hilt. And another thing he does is that sort of chukka chukka sort of percussive sound where he sort of mutes the strings, and with the delay as well, it just adds a bit more depth to it. But all he's doing is he's not fretting the notes, just going chukka chukka chukka. But that's a real sort of edge thing too.
Yeah, I guess it kind of works. But yeah, I still haven't found. I always assumed he was looking for Jesus. That's what I from that song.
Yeah, perhaps it could be like, and especially if it's tapping into that gospel tradition, like it's going to have that sort of feel to it.
What about the lyrics from With or Without You? No, With or Without You, like the thing is, like, you know, it's so simple. It's like bum 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 bum.
Yeah, like he's only doing the root notes and the bass. But like one thing the Edge is doing on the guitar, like he has this special device that I never seen anybody else use. It's called an ebow, and he just holds it over the guitar, and it sort of the string vibrates and it's sustained. So it's like you're using a bow for a violin.
Yeah,
it has that sort of effect, and he just has to hold it there. So you hear the notes sustained like so much longer than normally, but it adds that little bit of minimalism that he does a lot in a different way. It works really well. Like I think it's their best love song. I think it's one of the best love songs that out there. And another song that they have live, sometimes they put in.
On a bed of nails, she makes me wait.
I don't think that literally.
No, I wouldn't take it literally either. But I wonder what is the metaphor for you.
Well, it's waiting for whatever stage of the relationship. I don't know. Another thing.
But yeah, look, it's kind of, you know, and one thing you two are kind of known for is, like, you know, build, you know, the atmosphere, and the atmosphere you build. And in fairness, you have to give credit to, you know, like Larry Mullen, is that, you know, the drums kick in when, you know, it's a song that
it's really
starts off slow and atmospherically, but with Bono, and they're all doing their things. The guitar with the ding 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 with the effect. It's just that's what Edge brings to the table, is that he has great timing for what sounds good in what part of the song, like, and how build, you know, a great feel for how to build up a song and to bring a song to a climax. And that's what I always look for music. Now, I'm not saying you two do it better than anyone else, but they can do it well enough. They can do it pretty well, where they drive songs home to a climax by, you know, amping up the drums, or Bono's vocal delivery becoming more intense, and then Edge bringing it. You know, they all work together on that. Usually the bass doesn't change much. Usually the bass is just bum 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 bum. But
I know, yeah. No, I agree. No, I think it does work well in that. And one thing as well when it comes to the climax, and you see it on Rattle and Hum, the live version do on Rattle and Hum, and they have an extra verse in there, and it's like, we see the stars shine like summer night. We'll see, I don't know, something about stars shining as one heart, one love, and he says one love at the end. And I wonder, is that like where you pulled that lyric then to use in one? I wonder, because it sounds like Yeah, we shine like stars in the summer light. We shine like stars in the winter time. One heart, one something, one love. It's not in the recorded version, but
Okay. I'd say easily it could be. Easily it could
but
be.
the throughout that extra verse now and again live when they play it live, which is, and it adds an extra sort of an extra, like just when you're hitting the height and then this extra thing comes in just to really hit it home, which works really well, I think.
Well, pretty well, like the obviously the climax is whoa,
Yeah.
and then the guitar ding down 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 down. It's so simple, but it is memorable. Of course, there is another lyric about whether through the storm we reach the shore. Yeah, okay. Bullet the Blue Sky, obviously great song. I've mentioned it already, but again, in the howling wind comes a stinging rain. See it driving nails into the souls on the tree of pain. Now,
so just about what that's about. It's a political song, and I think he was in El Salvador, and a lot of the effective American foreign policy is a general theme, and it was repurposed, and like it was a favourite in all the tours nearly. I think they nearly always play it, and they repurposed it for whatever sort of war is going on at the time. So like when I saw them, it was like the Iraq War, and they sort of interpreted it in that context, and it fits quite well. And they usually have a political segment, and that's like the centerpiece of the political segment of the show.
Yeah, I mean, you plant a demon seed, you raise a flower of fire. Like that works even in the Iraq War context. It's that we see the burning crosses, see the flames turning higher and higher. Doesn't he have a kind of a talking part in that song as well?
Yeah, a man breathes into a saxophone and all this, and through all we hear a city drone. Outside is America.
Yeah.
But it's great. Like there's a great moment in Rattle Home. Like it happened when they're doing it live. It's great, and they said like that. Outside is America, and then boom, and then the piano comes in for running stand still, and it's just you hit this peak of just this sort of heavy song and a heavy political moment, and then it just comes into something nice. It's just the ebb and flow, the way the way they manage the emotions there. It's really well done. And Running to Stand Still, one of my favourite songs. Apparently, again about heroin in Dublin, and yeah, and like it's one. So the lyrics can be quite vague, but the one lyric that I would point out, there's one moment where he says, she sees 7 towers but can only see one way out. The 7 towers there apparently are the Ballymun flats. So the towers of, the flats that were in Dublin at the time.
Yeah, no, look, there are good lyrics here. Like it's you gotta cry without weeping, talk without speaking, scream without raising your voice. I took the poison from the poison stream, then I floated out of here. Like the poison, is that like basically?
Must be heroin, yeah.
Yeah, like that's theirs. She walks through the streets with her eyes painted red, under a black belly of cloud in the rain. Okay, yes, weather metaphor, but I like it here in this context. Okay, they're not all bad. In through a doorway, she brings me white gold and pearls. But like even the way it's delivered, again, delivery is important. It's stolen from the sea. She is raging, dun, 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 and the storm blows up in her eyes. She was suffered a needle chill. She's running to stand still. I think that is a very profound kind of image she's created there, and it's a kind of one of those simple kind of chord progressions again, but that's where they do their best work, is how they build up the song, and through edges, guitar, little flourishes, to the building up of the drums and all that kind of thing. It's the standard U2 operation, or standard U2 formula, but it works very well. I think this is them at the very, very best. If you wanted about some of the other songs, like In God's Country, to me is a kind of short song. It's just catchy. It's not like an amazing, like it's not an amazing song to me, but it is pretty catchy. Great vocal hook. Deserts. Is it Desert Sky?
Yeah.
Desert Sky. Yeah, it's very catchy. You mentioned Exit earlier on.
Yeah.
I like that's kind of bum 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 bum.
It's very minimalist.
Very minimalist. But I'm just going to say this, if you don't mind. When I heard that song, I was like, I've written that song on my own guitar. I've written it. It sounds exactly like that. I've written the old song on the old guitar, and even kind of imagined something very similar in my head, even just kind of even though I don't really have the musicianship skills of how it builds with the the strumming of the guitar. Now, if in my hypothetical album, it would have been a B-side, but in U2's album, it ends up being on their best ever album. Like, so I'll make it that what you will. Like, but I don't know. Look, he built. Yeah, once again, it's another example of them taking something very simple and building it up well to with a lot of the work from, like, obviously Edge plays a big part in that too, but you can't keep making songs off these very simple like eventually I think what's happened to U2 in time is that because they don't have they aren't able to come up with elaborate or complicated or unusual chord progressions or structures, is that a lot of their songs end up sounding the same, or it just doesn't sound all that fresh or new. I know obviously there's production problems as well, but I'll just say one more and I'll let you go back. I'll let you take on. One Tree Hill is another example of just the chord progressions. It's a fine song. Don't get me wrong, it's very pleasant on the ears. It's a good song, but it's like, as soon as I heard it for the first time, down 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 down, I knew exactly what the rest of the air was. It's like kind of like country song kind of thing where you know exactly, you only need to hear a few notes and you already know what the rest of the air is going to be. And I don't think that's a good thing. I like to be surprised in music, and they do surprise us in sometimes in other ways, but generally that's one of my criticisms of it.
I think with One Tree Hill, for me, Running to Stand Still, like, that's probably one of my favourite songs, probably my second favourite U2 song, and
it is very
and I love, it's a great, one thing I really like about it is they play it, like, it's a great moment live, and they went through loads of different, they rearranged it a few times, so the rather than hum version is just a normal piano version. Then when they did it for Zoo TV, they completely changed it, all on guitar, and Bono did this sort of shtick where he's like, it's almost like he's about to shoot up. But I just captured, he has the crowd in the palm of his hand. It's just well done. And it is a nice song. The other songs then, like, highlights for me are Exit. I love, like, Exit is I just love the dynamics. Like, it's soft, loud and soft is just great. Like, the chorus is nice and quiet, and then they absolutely kick off the verse is quiet. They kick off in the chorus. Especially, I think it's better. The live version of Rattle and Hum is much better than the recorded version. It just seems a sort of loosey feel to it. I don't know what's going on. It just doesn't feel right. They haven't dialed it in perfectly.
Doesn't feel as raw.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as raw. I just feel like they haven't dialed it in properly. But it's good, and it's like this character that's looking for, like, the healing hands of love. I don't know what's going on, but again, it's a little bit ambiguous as to what's going on with it. In God's Country and One Tree Hill were both singles, I think. There's a story about One Tree Hill. Apparently that was meant to be the single everywhere, but Bono didn't want to sing it live. Now, there's two reasons why I heard that he didn't want to. One was it was a bit high, that he couldn't reach the notes. But he sang it live recently at the Joshua Tree tour a few years ago. They did like a 30-year Joshua Tree tour. And he's singing it live every day then. So
they didn't tune it down, did they?
Maybe they did. But then they could have done it in 1987 as well. But the other reason was it's a story about somebody that he knew who died, and maybe was going to be too emotional for him, which probably makes a bit more sense if that was the reason. But I think it's better than In God's Country. I think it's a really good song. Red Hill Mining Town is good. It's fine, and Trip Through Wires are fine, but the weaker songs, I think.
What is that disappeared?
Yeah, it's a nice way to finish. It's a nice quiet sort of way to finish the album again. I do like it as well. But then it's probably,
and it's like the lyrics: "Midnight, our sons and daughters were cut down and taken from us. Hear their heartbeats, we hear their heartbeats. In the wind, we hear their laughter. In the rain, we see their tears. Hear their heartbeats, we hear their heartbeats. Night hangs like a prisoner, stretched over black and blue. Hear their heartbeats, we hear their heartbeats. In the trees, our sons stand naked. Through the walls, their daughters cry. See their tears in the rain fall." Do you know what the song is about?
I don't know much about it at all, actually.
Yeah, it seems like the type of song that would be about something pretty specific.
So, just checking Wikipedia, Bono's experiences in Nicaragua and El Salvador in 1986 following they were some Amnesty International. So, he learned of the Madres de Plaza de Mayo, a group of women whose children had forcibly disappeared at the hands of the Argentine and Chilean dictatorships. Okay.
Yeah, so I suppose, like, again, I think that's a nice tribute to those parents who've lost their children. You know, in that scenario, I don't know the context, I don't know much about the context of it, but well, I do kind of like that Bono is prepared to sing about stuff like that. Sometimes his takes might be maybe a little bit naive. Maybe I shouldn't be. Maybe I'm not one to judge whether it's naive or not, but it sounds naive. A lot of times it sounds very naive to my ears. But I don't think, in some ways, overall, I respect the general sentiments that he usually offers in these scenarios.
It's usually
a positive. Usually a positive scenario. It's usually empathetic towards those who have lost, and sympathetic, and then also he offers a general message of anti-war, peace is best, and so on, which is good. It seems Red Hill Mining Town is that like kind of a tribute to the miners? Is it right?
Red Hill Mining Town. I don't know the history behind it, but they do a version of Spring Hill Mining Disaster. There are two mining songs, but a Spring Hill Mining Disaster is like a traditional song that they only performed once, which was done by the Dubliners more. Was that the Dubliners the late Dubliners tribute? Basically, they were brought on and they sang Spring Hill Mining Disaster. Red Hill Mining Town. What is it about? Mine workers. Oh yeah, the miners in Great Britain. Yeah, the miners' strike.
Miners' strike. So again, like I like that he's writing songs about these causes. I think that have you looked into much the miners' strike?
Well, I know the general story, like that the miners in Great Britain, like basically they were being closed down, and it was a like socially huge, devastating for local towns and everything. So it was very socially inconsiderate.
Yeah, there is one lyric from it. A link is lost, a chain undone. We wait all day for night to come, and it comes like a hunter child. And going back to the front to stop with it. From father to son, the blood runs thin. Oh, see the faces frozen still against the wind. So there seems to be a theme of, there's a tradition of types of workers, tradition of a father passing on a type of work.
Yeah, well, like
that gets lost. Is that?
Well, like the miners' strike, like it was like where the Thatcher government decided to close all the mines because it didn't make sense. But if for an economic perspective, there might have been an argument for that. But from a social perspective, it was a really destructive. Yeah, exactly. Because basically, there's towns built up around these mines. All of a sudden, they're working there. Next day, they're not working there, and people's lives are completely destroyed. So you need to manage. Like, if you do want to close the mines, it's not necessarily a bad thing to do, but you have to manage it and structure it over many years to get people into transition to something different, basically.
Yeah.
And then there's all the, even when you do that, you are tearing down these sort of social connections and traditions that people would have, one person did it and it was passed down for years before and all that sort of stuff. So, it was, exactly, it was,
I think your argument against it is a little bit more, like his is a bit more vague. But yeah, look, I can't say, like, realistically, I haven't been able to look at through analyze every song you two have done, and the lyrics in. I've tried. I've kept an eye on the lyrics, but I can't remember everything.
Yeah.
So even like a lot of these songs, even though I, to my ear, I know them all, but once again, I can't say that I've looked into all of them in massive depth lyrically, because I just didn't have the time. But it's still, I suppose it's an iconic album. it's probably, you know, to me you know, it's not the, you know, we could have been cool and we could have tried to, you know, throw a curveball and say one of their best albums actually Zooropa, or their best albums actually Boy. But like at the end of the day, realistically, it's going to be the Joshua Tree or or probably Achtung Baby.
Like one, yeah, for me anyway. Like I feel in general, U2 are more of a singles band. Like they come from an era where, well, the albums were important, but also like you had to get a few singles, and they really put all their effort in. Like the fact that they spent most of their time on Where the Streets Have No Name suggests that this is not uncommon for them to focus on the few singles, and it makes sense if you read, like if you look at the likes of Unforgettable Fire, it feels like they put all their effort in the few top songs, and they really are polished.
Yeah.
So I wonder. So like it feels a bit like that. There's only a few albums that I really would rate as really high, good quality albums that I listened to the whole way through, and they would be, Joshua Tree, Achtung Baby, and Zooropa. And then like I do like Boy and October for me personally. I listen to them through, but then the other albums, it's a case of there could be a few really, really standout singles, but then when you see them live, you have all the great stuff, and then they work it into a narrative live, and it's a whole different beast then.
That's fair enough, but to second that point is that you know, when you explore bands, you're always thinking that you're going to come across a lot of deep cuts, you know, like kind of, you know what I mean by deep cuts, sort of album tracks that aren't known by the public but are just fan favorites or whatever. And
yeah, there's a few.
There's definitely a few, but there's not that many. I think like if I compare, we've done Divine Comedy, and you know, I kind of feel like with U2, it's over 80% of their best songs were actual singles.
Yeah.
While with Divine Comedy, I'd say less than 20% of their best songs. You know, like I'd say over 80% of the best songs weren't singles.
Yeah, no, it's true. All my top 10 were not. None of them were singles actually. So that's just it.
It just. But that's the way they. You know,
it's a very different operation.
They're world dominators. That's what they want to be, and they for a long time they did dominate the world musically in their own minds. But. Have you anything else to say before we have our final thoughts about U2 and their legacy? This has been a tiring one.
Yeah. Oh well, for me, like U2, they'll always have a place for me because they were this band I listened to a lot as a teenager. I don't listen to as much anymore, but listen back to these songs, like there's an emotional resonance for a lot of them. So I do enjoy them quite a lot. I think when they're at their peak, they have some great sort of. They can just grab you and bring you along emotionally. So that's on the ebb and flow, like you said. They can really manage that quite well. But I think nowadays they can put on a good show. They can make the odd good ballad, but the glory days are behind them, unfortunately.
Yeah, fair enough. Like I didn't come into it as a fan at all. I've always found them a little bit kind of middle of the road. I didn't have that great a perception of their 80s and 90s work. I liked their big hits, but that was about it. Definitely, I enjoyed listening to U2, 14 albums of them, more than I thought it would. Obviously, I got a bit tired by the time I got to Songs of Experience, and maybe that affected my viewpoint of perspective of that album. But I think we're nearly finished.
I think we are. Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe we'll wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up. Look, a great band. I enjoyed covering them. I probably will need a break from them for a while. Maybe some stage we'll when next time we do this, we might do a kind of a thing where we'll do our top 10 songs of U2, top 10 songs of U2, and top 10 songs of Divine Comedy at some stage. It'll be a shorter one. We might do a movie. We might do a filmmaker next time.
Yeah, filmmaker. I think. Yeah, we'll move on to films. Yeah.
All right. Good stuff.
Okay. Well, thanks guys for watching or listening, and give us a ranking. All the stuff that we mentioned already, rating, alarm bells, comments, and everything. And tell your friends. Thanks.
See you, folks.